वक्रतुंड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा।
Good evening, friends. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I have great pleasure in welcoming you all to the 15th lecture of the BI monthly lecture series. Union Budget 2021 was presented on Monday, 1st February 2021. And BI Mumbai Center turned to none other than BI's long-standing friends and guides, CA Tarun Geyaji, for briefing us all on Union Budget 2021. Tarun Geya sir, I welcome you and thank you for accepting our request. As usual, the Government of India has requested BI for sending its suggestion for consideration or incorporation in the Union Budget 2021, and which BI headquarters has done. And you can all access it on BI website. That is www.baionline.com.in. But I am told that this year none of the BI suggestions have been considered in the Union Budget 2021. Union Budget 2021 was expected to give some further boost to the real estate sector, but it has not been so. But the infrastructure sector has received a lot of funds, and this is good news for our contractor members. I will not go into the detail and leave it to CA Tarun Geyaji, sir, for briefing all. I once again welcome you all and wish you all a very informative evening. Thank you. Jai Hind, Jai Maharashtra. Now I request Pradeep Nagwekar to introduce the speaker.
Nagwekar sir,
yes.
Unmute yourself.
Okay, I'm audible, no? Yeah. Friends, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I've been interested with the task of introducing our good friend, Chartered Accountant Tarun Geyaji. Friends, actually, Tarun Geyaji needs no introduction amongst BI members. He is well known in BI across India, and BI is proud to have him amongst us. Apart from being well known in BI circles, Chartered Accountant Sri Tarun Geyaji is a very well known in most of the business fraternity. His varied activities have made him famous in business circles. He has been a practicing chartered accountant since 1984, and his core areas of practice includes consultancy and appellate representation in income tax matters, representation in RERA, economic and commercial laws, other real estate laws, Hindu laws, in litigations and appellate practice, in drafting of redevelopment and redevelopments, drafting of documents, arbitrations, project management consultancy, in redevelopments, self-redevelopments, consultation to builders, developers, and in real estate transactions. Friends, he has pleaded in persons writ petition at Bombay High Court. As a speaker, addressed more than 2,000 meetings, including in India and abroad. He is elected Central Council member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. Presently, he is the chairman, Direct Access Committee, ICAI, to deal mainly with income tax laws. He is also a chairman, Economic Commercial Laws and Economic Advisory Committee, ICAI, to deal with FEMA, RERA, IPR laws, construction laws, stamp duty and registration laws, anti-money laundering laws, arbitration laws, business support services, startups, all commercial and economic laws and economic fields. In recent past, from time to time, he has been chairman of various committees such as Expert Advisory Committee, Direct Taxes Committee, Economic and Commercial Law and Economic Advisory Committee, Public Finance and Government Accounting, Cooperative and NPO Laws Committee, and so on. Friends, he is ICAI representative on the Central Board of Taxes, Group on MAT, as an income computation and disclosure standards. He is ICAI representative on CSR, Ministry of Corporate Affairs. He has authored and co-authored various publications on RERA, Section 115 JC of Income Tax Act at ICAI from guidance note for real estate developers as compliant technical guide and guidance, note on income in computation and disclosure standards under the Income Tax Act. He has contributed largely on legal issues in real estate transaction as well as on new law RERA. On RERA, he has addressed Builders Association of India, CREDAI, and on occasions with RERA authorities. Writer of popular columns on properties, laws, and taxes in newspapers like Times of India, DNA, Vyapar, professional magazines. Succeeded as a representative at IT80, a landmark judgment deciding zero taxation on society redevelopment. He was advisor to Builders Association of India on direct tax matters and for their revenue representations to the government and other concerned authorities. He is a member of the India Forensic Research Foundation. And many more things. It is so as to, actually it is very important to listen him on today's subject, particularly budget. I'm not taking much more time. I welcome you, sir, and request chairman to proceed further.
Now I request Tarun ji, the stage is yours.
Sir, unmute yourself.
Am I unmuted?
Yeah, you are unmuted. We can hear you.
Can you hear me? Very good evening, esteemed members of the BAI. My special respect to Chairman of the BAI Mumbai, Sri Mohinder Rijwani ji, General Secretary at national level, Sri Pradeep Nagwekar ji, RERA Committee Chairman, Sri Anand Gupta ji, Chief Executive Secretary, Raju John ji, Communication Head, Madhusudan ji, all the esteemed hosts on the screen, and very learned BI members. Let me at the outset mention wholeheartedly that I am equally proud to be associated with the BAI over a period of time. And by associating with BAI, my knowledge and inputs to me about the real estate industry have increased manifold. So I will always cherish to be associated with the activities where I can contribute some concrete material. As far as the feeling, which I think Sanjeeva Madhusudanji mentioned in the beginning, that government has not categorically given specific benefits to the real estate sector, whereas infra push is very conspicuous. I would mention my view like this, not justifying the stand of the FM, but if I can visualize the manner in which the funds are flowing to emerging markets, the manner in which, because of the COVID-19 and the attitude aspects, the China is getting adversely affected. I would not say isolated, because China has such supply chain that even the enemies have to import from China as far as many of the input materials are concerned. So the manner in which China is getting adversely affected by its role, the India is emerging as a very important market for the advanced countries. And one of the prime reasons for inflow of funds is the excess liquidity because of printing of notes across the world, practically by all countries. And this is going to continue more in advanced countries. Why? Because you will appreciate the corona has virtually gone from India, whereas corona is not only continuing in some advanced countries, but has given more apprehensions of some repetitive attacks. So in this context, it will be absolutely essential for those countries to go on giving more and more stimulus. In simplified understanding, the stimulus would mean government will give, government will spend from its own pocket. So obviously, by printing more funds. There can be other ways also, but this way is found more convenient and less harmful as far as the inflation effects are concerned. And anything in supply more means that the value goes down. Therefore, the value of dollar is going down and down. Comparatively, the other currencies, more particularly from Asian countries, the value will go higher. And therefore, the funds would find it attractive to come to emerging markets and invest funds. So my understanding is the kind of the recovery our economy has shown, the kind of the functioning our IT industry, pharma industry, and our real estate industry are showing. Very soon multinationals will start investing more and more in India, and that will create a strong demand for the real estates. Because ultimately, if the growth as envisaged in the budget materializes, then growth will lead to more money power in the hands of people. And this money power will go to purchases of real estates also. Leaving that as it is, my understanding of the budget is that this was the budget before which categorically the finance minister gave some assurances. If we read the newspapers of last 1 or 2 months, we could categorically make out that infra push is a foregone conclusion. And otherwise also, the last modern economist, the Keynes, had propagated the theory that when you are passing from recession, then spending is a virtue and saving is a vice. So government has to spend, and spending for capital goods, mainly the infra, would have far multiplier effect on giving income to the concerned players, including workers, and consumption power in their hands. So infra push was technically and economically also was a very required need. I would believe, and this is what I said in my speech in Rajya Sabha TV also as a panel speaker, that government does not have that much money. And to my understanding, India is not printing that much money as advanced countries are printing. Therefore, for the infra push, government would ultimately take recourse to public-private partnership. And that is where I believe the big contractors and their subcontractors would have very important role to play. This is one budget where I could also speak to the chartered accountants before 2 days on a nationwide our webinar. That generally we find that the finance minister speaks something in the budget speech. When we read the fine print, there are so many riders, so many conditions attached, but in this budget, it is not so. Not that conditions are missing, but conditions are very, very less. So there was high amount of transparency, including that if you read the economic survey, there were many indications in the economic survey itself about what is in offing in the budget. Therefore, in the RSTV debate also, when I think most of them took a view that COVID tax will come, I had categorically taken a firm stand that COVID tax probably will not come because finance minister is reconciled not to disturb the business in industry. And in India, no higher tax, no disturbance is a big source of relief. And that is being celebrated probably by the stock markets also. Coming to specific aspects of the budget, what I have thought is, Mohinderji, that when it comes to have direct or indirect impact on the real estate sector, we will try to spend more time. And when the amendments are generic, those proposals, we may not spend more time unless some participant wants me to spend more time. Let me start with the specific amendments proposed. That the digitization is being a very high push in all sectors, including in the income tax. So presently, income tax assessments have become faceless. Income tax appeals are becoming faceless. And now in the Finance Bill 2021, it is proposed that even tribunal proceedings will become faceless and consequently jurisdictionless. This faceless has more advantages, although coupled with limitations. Because today also, if we can sit together and discuss the budget, the eye contact, the body language, the comfort will give far more understanding than having the pleasure of sitting in our own offices or houses and talking on video conferencing. And when it becomes faceless, in my last meeting with the DGIT, which is the top authority in income tax IT, as Direct Tax Committee Chairman, I had told them that SSC's identity is must to be established. So if I am an SSC in faceless, my photograph may come in video conference, but authority's photograph should not come. Because if I see the photograph, then the top authorities and even medium range authorities are not so many in India. So then the doors are opened for connectivity. At the same time, in my RS talk also, and in my written representations to CBDT, I have categorically mentioned today, assessments have become faceless for me as an SSC, but not for the income tax officers. Why? Because many friends in income tax department, we talk to them that they have complete details of the SSCs, whose details are coming to them for assessment purpose. PAN, address, name, all contact details are there. And there are people who are making approaches before passing the order, that your order is going to be passed. So in the earlier days, probably an interested SSC was dealing directly with the income tax officer. Now he will be dealing with somebody who is claiming to have contact. So if the government does not bring such changes which are for improvement, then it will backfire very heavily and it will create more problems than solving the problems. The first specific amendment proposed, I can take up for general as well as applicable to all business people, is with reference to section 44AD and 44AB. I am sorry, I should have spoken 44AB and AD. 44AB tells me that if during the year my sales, turnover, or gross receipts, any of these is more than 1 CR, then I have to get my business accounts audited. Earlier, relaxation was given that even if my turnover, sales, etc. increasing more than 1 CR and below 5 CR, but if my aggregate receipts during the year from business, maximum 5% is in cash. So 95% or more is by banking channel, receipts. As also, aggregate of my payments during the year, maximum 5% can be in cash. If that is so, that means my cash receipts and cash payments restricted to 5%, then even if my turnover is up to 5 crores, I need not get any audit done. Now, I am told that this 5 crores is proposed to be enhanced to 10 crores. So it will be a big relief to the small businessman that he will not be subjected to audit And more importantly, friends, mind well, this is not 44 AD we are talking. So I am not supposed to declare that 6% and 8%. That 6% and 8% is a different section 44 AD for the business, which is available up to 2 crores, where all these conditions like only 5% cash receipts, 5% bank receives, cash receives 5% cash payment not there. So only condition which I have to follow as an SSC is to keep my transactions through banking channel. And in that case, till 10 lakhs, I am neither subjected to minimum this much income, minimum 6%, 8%. That rule also does not apply to me, and I will be beyond the tax audit. Next amendment I can take is for real estate, but for a very limited purpose. That is the price band in respect of sale of residential unit, first time allotment to a home buyer. This amendment is proposed in 43 CA of the Income Tax Act. So it would apply to builders and developer sales. Presently, the price band in general under section 50C, that is stamp duty valuation when I sell the immovable property, and under section 43CA, stamp duty valuation when a builder developer in general sells immovable property, that is 10%. But now the special category of transaction, they have enhanced the price, they are enhancing the price band up to 20%. What is that? It should be the first time allotment by the builder developer or anybody else under 43CA. So even society can also be constructing and allotting for the first time. And the house buyer, home buyer, should not have any other home. This is his only home purchase. The price of the residential unit should not exceed rupees 2 crores. If these three main conditions are complied with, then it is being provided that the stamp duty price band would be 20%. So how that stamp duty price band functions? The agreement for sale of the flat is 7 crore. If the stamp duty is up to 1.20 crores, then no stamp duty effect, no valuation effect will come because price band is 20%. But supposing agreement for sale is 100 and the stamp duty valuation is 121, then 1% effect will not be there, then 21% effect will come. So there is no deduction of 20%. If I am remaining within the price band of 20%, then no effect of stamp duty valuation. But if I am crossing the stamp duty valuation price band of 20%, then my sale price will not be considered as 100, but it will be considered as 121. Then there is no benefit of 20. This is for particular period. In fact, here in my notes, period is not mentioned. So when I go to the finance bill, I'll find out it is only for particular period that this price band of 20% is available. Now, this time period being reduced in respect of the belated returns and revised returns, I'll tell you, is going to create probably more hardships for the people, because even though digitization is happening, But tax compliance is not easy, particularly in India, and therefore this time limit being reduced for filing the return is going to create some more problems, and we will be making representations. I am sure that BI will be making the representations to Finance Ministry, etc. But if you find it necessary from taxation point of view, if you tell me some points, I will also include in my representations to the Finance Ministry and CBDT. What is needed in such representations is that if simpliciter representations are made, by and large, all along the Finance Ministry does not read so much. The groundwork is done by the CBDT. CBDT also, for various reasons, wants ready-made masala. So representation, if it is given, it has to be like what is the existing provision, what is the amendment proposal, how that proposal will hit somebody or create hardship. So what kind of terminology should be there? What kind of amendment should be made? We should give with exact terminology that these words may be deleted, these words may be substituted, these words may be added. Then they find it very good to further forward to the Finance Ministry. Till now, the stakeholders, the SSCs, are entitled to file the return of income, firstly by the prescribed due dates. So the due date being July, September, November, etc. And if the filing of return is beyond these prescribed dates, then it was being allowed up to 31st March with a penalty of rupees 5,000. Now, so practically, the taxpayer was having 1 year to file the belated return. The year ends on 31st March, and he is entitled to file up to 31st March next. Now, it is being proposed that this belated return can be filed only by 31st December. So the date is reduced by 3 months. Now, in many cases, because of various reasons, for example, this time in COVID-19 cases also, the due date itself is, prescribed due date itself is many times extended up to 31st December. So this new provision would mean there is no scope for any belated return. Similarly, revised return has many advantages. If one's return is filed in time by 31st March or before the assessment is over, and this revision gives, or rather continues, all the benefits of tax deduction, exemption. If you have forgotten something, you can add there. So it is a very important benefit for amendment of the return, where some mistakes in a hurry might have been committed. Now that revision of return also, the time period is being reduced. Earlier available total time period maximum 1 year, now 9 months only. But at the same time, government is not one-sided in the sense that in their cases also, the scrutiny notice, which was hitherto allowed within 6 months of the end of the financial year in which return is filed. So there, so far 18 months, because my financial year ends on 31st March. So I find the I file the return in next financial year. After the end of the next financial year, the scrutiny notice in the existing provisions can be issued within 6 months. So totally 18 months from the end of the relevant financial year. Now that time period also is being reduced, that the department is being told the department can issue the notice for scrutiny only within 3 months after the end of the financial year in which return is filed. Then the time period, this was a long pending demand, and such a small amendment also took 2 years of our representation, that they understood that it is but natural that unless the books of account of partnership firm are finalized, I as a partner cannot file my return of income. What used to happen, that if my partnership firm has international transactions, so covered by transfer pricing provisions, or my partnership firm has domestic transactions with sister concerns, etc. So I am subjected in both the cases to specific provisions of section 92E, where the due date of the partnership firm for filing the return of income is 30th November. In general, partnership firm due date is 30th September. But earlier, I was told that your firm's due date may be 30th November, but as a partner, you file return up to by 30th September only. Now they are amending by this proposal that in case I have international transactions or specific domestic transactions where transfer pricing provisions apply because they are with related parties, sister concerns, etc., then as a partner, my return date also will be 30th November. A most important amendment, I think, in this budget is with reference to reopenment assessments and search and seizure kind of assessments. In most of the cases, this would give big relief. I will not spend more time unless there is a specific query, because I know I am talking to the stakeholders where so much technicalities may not be of interest. So there are amendments in section 147, section 149, section 153 capital A, 153 capital B, and 153 capital C. In short, it would mean that earlier my assessment could be reopened by the assessing officer within 4 months or within 6 months. Now, that assessment can be reopened only within 3 months. So the time period for assessment, for reopenment of assessment, has been substantially reduced from 6 and 4 years to 3 years. However, it is not so simple. If the department has specific evidence that escapement of income, in my case, with evidence is more than 50 lakhs, 50 lakhs, then in that case, for reopenment, time limit will not be 3 years, but time limit will be 10 years. So for those cases, time limit is enhanced to 10 years, where department comes across an evidence of escapement more than 50 lakhs. Search and seizure cases also, the time limit has effectively reduced from 7 years to 4 years. So now, if the search happens after 1st February 2021, then reassessment will happen only for the year of search, and in addition, the past 3 assessment years only, whereas earlier, past 6 assessment years were subjected in search reassessment provisions. I am sorry, not after 1st February, but after 31st March 2021. Some provisions have become effective from 1st February. Now, your interaction with your tax audit reporter, chartered accountant will have to be more, because they are proposing an amendment that if there is a difference between the return of income and the tax audit report, then for that difference, department will not give you any notice. But since the tax audit report is writing something adverse about you, so to that extent, department will directly add the income in your case. It is generally being said, and not without reason, that what is Income Tax Settlement Commission? You may think of an order, and that order can come to you. So your wish list can be fulfilled by Income Tax Settlement Commission. That is the kind of operation hitherto experienced by the department and enjoyed by the SSCs. So now they say that from 1st February 2021, the Income Tax Settlement Commission has already been abolished on the date of presentation of the budget. If your application is pending before the Settlement Commission and it is a valid application, not declared invalid, then it will survive. And for that limited purpose, the government is forming interim settlement board to deal with these pending applications. But as an SSC, you have been given an option that if you want, you can withdraw your application and now once again go to the assessing officer that I don't want settlement, let us do assessment on merits. Now, this is one very effective amendment if it works. A new section 245 MA is proposed, which is a dispute resolution mechanism for small taxpayers. The condition is that your returned income should not be more than 50 lakhs. And second condition is that the variation, that is enhancement, proposed by the income tax officer should not be more than 10 lakhs. This is also one more aspect, if some of you are not knowing, that in the National E-Assessment Scheme, directly the assessment order does not come to you, friends. Earlier, the assessment order was a kind of surprise in many cases, that I was never given an opportunity. I never thought he is having this kind of thinking, the officer, and he has written directly many things in the order. But now, in the faceless, which is already operative, first you are giving the proposed assessment order, draft assessment order. So now this one more amendment, that if you find in the draft assessment order that the assessing officer is trying to enhance income not more than 10 lakhs, and your returned income was not more than 50 lakhs, then you can take recourse to this dispute resolution mechanism, where penalty and other aspects are likely to be avoided. there are many contractors. Some litigations I have also handled. BMC contractors, road contractors. And in cases of general traders also, the department doubting your invoices. And in the GST regime, department doubting your input tax credit. The cases are very many. So this amendment I'll be speaking about is on that. Last year, if you remember, the provision has already come in the form of section 271 AAD that if there are false invoices, etc., and if the penalty under this section is going to exceed 2 crores, so this is for big players, 2 crores, then the penalty can be levied by the assessing officer himself. Now, additional punishment that because of these false invoices, etc., if such penalty is exceeding 2 crores, then government has a fear that you will run away from the scene. So government has taken powers now that your property can be immediately attached even before assessment is over. Honorable Finance Minister, in fact, it is the history of ICI that she came to our institute and sat with us for more than 1.5 hours. The audience was 66,000 plus. And I was having the pleasure of having discussion with her online in the webinar. She was quite forthright. Many of the suggestions she was accepting outright, if you see the video conference. But when it comes to bureaucracy, they find out many reasons how this proposal is not workable. But still, we did not leave our attempts. Now, Vivad Se Vishwas scheme is not only being extended to 28th February, but we are very hopeful that government may expand the scope of Vivad Se Vishwas scheme. Because one of the main planks on which we have made suggestions is that if you want me to have peace, then give me peace for all the assessment years on a particular issue. Don't just give me peace in respect of one issue for 1 year only. If my issue is same in the other pending assessment years also, then give me relief completely rather than only in respect of appeal year. This announcement by the finance minister that senior citizens above 75 years will not have to file return is probably to some extent misleading. What is the procedure being proposed is that he should have only, first of all, interest and pension income. No other income he should have. Secondly, the bank in which he is receiving pension, only that bank interest should be there. So if he is having some other bank account and interest there, then he is not eligible. And thirdly, it is not that he will not be paying tax. What they are going to do, that these banks will be declared as specified banks. The senior citizen will be able to give a declaration to the specified bank that my pension income is this much, my interest income from your bank is this much, and I do not have any other income. And tax is either deducted or I am paying the tax herewith. So this is an amendment which is not so going to be so useful. The TDS provisions, tax deduction at source, are being expanded, but this expansion appears to be more to give relief to the provision which was found very, very difficult for the taxpayers. Because you will find that hitherto, the seller of the goods was required under section 206C to collect tax while receiving his sale consideration, which was very difficult to operate. So now they have simultaneously introduced TDS for the buyer of the goods. But this is only for big players, that only if the turnover in the earlier financial year is exceeding 10 crores, then this will apply. Secondly, this TDS will apply only if I am buying from that person in a year more than 50 lakhs. Then TDS of 0.1% will apply. So if the purchase price is 100 rupees, then 1 paisa will be the TDS. 1 paisa or 10 paisa? 1 minute. 0.1%. Yeah, it is 10 paisa. Now, if you know hitherto that if TDS or TCS applies and one does not have permanent account number, then rate of TDS TCS is more, up to 20%. Now they are saying that rate 20% will apply, but if you have TDS or TCS in last 2 years and your income tax returns are not filed, then another penalty will also happen, that is non-filers of the returns of income. As far as infrastructure and real estate in which REITs, Real Estate Investment Trust, and Infrastructure Investment Trust, REITs and InvITs, because most of them function by creating special purpose vehicle. This special purpose vehicle is a company. So this company pays then dividend to the REIT or InvIT. On that, TDS was applicable. Now they are saying that TDS will not apply. So this will give good liquidity to the REITs and InvITs, and it is likely to be helpful to the REIT and InvIT operators and stakeholders. There were many cases where depreciation was claimed and was allowed also. Although income tax law is silent, but depreciation was allowed. If I had in the past purchased goodwill by payment of money, then it was being allowed as an intangible asset, capital asset, and depreciation was allowed. Supreme Court judgment also is favorable to the SSC. But now by this amendment, the government is trying to overturn the Supreme Court judgment by saying retrospectively that no depreciation on goodwill. If it was allowed earlier, that much is fine. But in that case also, for selling the goodwill, separate method will be provided so that further depreciation cannot be allowed to that person. Then lotto planning is ongoing. Many of us has given many opinions that yes, in a real estate firm particularly, if there is a partnership firm of 4 partners, 6 partners, and 2 are retiring, the capital balance of Mr. A in the real estate firm, for example, or any partnership firm, his capital credit balance today is 1 crore. But in the retirement, he would be given 4 crores. Then what used to happen? Then, with the help of professionals or even otherwise, the firm would do like this. Firm will say that the assets in the books are at book value presently. Let the assets be revalued. Only book entry, revaluation. And to say that by support of valuation report, that the assets of this partnership firm in the books are say 10 crores, but actual value is 30 crores. So they will write assets from 10 crores to 30 crores. Correspondingly, these 20 crores will be credited to partners. So this partner who is retiring, whose present credit balance in the firm is 1 crore, suddenly he will get a credit of 3 crores by book entry. So his balance becomes 4 crores. Then he will be paid this 4 crores and no tax. Because then a stand is taken that look, what I have paid is credit balance only. And therefore there is no tax. This was being done by revaluation of capital assets and by generation of goodwill. That he is a partner in the firm since 10 years. The business is not of these assets only. The business has a lot of goodwill. Now he is retiring. So let us bring into the books that this business has the goodwill of 25 crores. So write in the books 25 crores. This 25 crores credit to every partner. So this partner's balance becomes 1 crore to 5 crores, 6 crores. 5 crores means then he can be paid 6 crores or no taxation. There were varying judgments from tribunals to high courts, differing judgments. But still, taking the right view, reading in between judgments, some of us had given many opinions, and in our view, very rightful opinions succeeded also, that this payment of, in our example, 5 crores or 6 lakhs is out of the tax ambit. So now, government has realized such practices. When you do over planning, government is able to see it. So now what the government has proposed is that in a partnership firm, if a partner's credit balance, in our example, is 1 crore, and he is being given at the time of retirement any asset, say number of flats are given, land is given to him, the value of these flats, land, etc., given to him is 8 crores. So he has got 7 crores more. So not the partner, but the firm. Earlier also firm was taxable because firm is transferring. In income tax, the transferor is taxed. So the firm which has transferred this land or units, etc., 8 crores against the capital balance of 1 crore will be liable to capital gains tax upon 7 crores. Earlier also this was the law. There is no change in the law. But earlier what used to happen, this 1 crore, the firm will first make 8 crores and then they will pay 8 crores. So now they have specifically provided in a substituted section that at any time if revaluation has happened, because you will do revaluation today and after 3 years you will pay him higher. So at any time revaluation has happened, any credit to partner's capital balance because of revaluation or because of creation in the books of goodwill, that kind of credit will not be considered as payment of balance. So in our example, supposing partner's credit balance is 1 crore. Before 3 years, I have done revaluation. That 1 crore, I have made 5 crores before 3 years. And now I am paying him 5 crores. So that also not allowed. Because his capital balance has been enhanced by revaluation or by creation of goodwill. And that has been now disallowed very specifically. FIIs. This is also going to further inflame the stock markets because financial institutions, foreign investment institutions, when they invest in India, then on their income, tax becomes payable. So Indian government will deduct TDS at source, which is generally higher. Whereas if I refer the treaty between India and Singapore, between India and UK, between India, Holland also, then tax rate of India is higher, double taxation treaty rate is lower. but he was not getting benefit on the spot. So now it is being proposed that FII for their income from securities, specified securities, will be able to get the advantage of the beneficial tax treaty. Now, your contribution as an employer towards the ESIC and PF, you have to be more vigilant. Why? Because hitherto, what is the provision? There are two kinds of contributions you are making as an employer. One is employer's contribution. If it is delayed beyond the date specified in the ESIC Act and Provident Fund Act, then for that delay, you are not punished if ultimately this PF and ESIC in income tax you have deposited in the government treasury before the due date of filing return, which is generally 31st July, 30th September. So you had a lot of time. Employer's contribution. Employee's contribution you are making as an employer, if you are delaying, was disallowable under section 36. But that was also ultimately allowed if you file the return before time because of some judgments. Now they have specifically being proposed that employer's contribution, no change. You pay by the due date under the income tax due date and you will get the benefit. But employee's contribution, if you pay delayed than the concerned act, then under the income tax also, you will get disallowance even afterwards if you make the payment by the due date to filing return. So that benefit has been withdrawn, and it is a clarificatory amendment, so it has been withdrawn retroactively. The first time housing loan borrowers of affordable houses, section 80 EEA, that benefit has been extended, interest up to rupees 1,50,000, because the date was expiring by 31st March 2021. So now extended 31st March 2022. That 20% price band, stamp duty valuation, I said it is for particular dates only. So that sale by the builder has to happen from 12th November 2020 to 30th June 2021. So for prospective purpose, if the builder makes sale by 30th June 2021 to a first-time house buyer, then not first-time house buyer, to only one house buyer who has no other house, then the stamp duty valuation difference can be up to 20%. The benefit of section 80IBA, affordable housing, has been extended by one more year, that is up to 31st March 2022. And not only that, but with the coveted policy of the government, in line with the changes in the real estate and economy, now government wants to promote rental housing projects. So apart from affordable housing projects, a rental housing project also will be eligible for 100% deduction of profit under 80IBA. And this is also to facilitate migrant workers, so they can get the benefit of affordable rental housing, and those houses will be more constructed. So it appears that government is happy with promoting and developing affordable houses, and the urban areas where 80IBA can apply, for example, Mumbai, it is very difficult to apply 80IBA because the limit is valuation under stamp duty should not be more than 45 lakhs. The area should not be more than 330 square meters. That is okay. One can construct. but present limit under ATIBA for metropolitan cities is stamp value to be not exceeding 45 lakhs. So as I see in the Borivali area also, the price line is more than 15,000 carpet area. So if you construct 330 and 15,000 area is, price is applied, then it exceeds 45 lakhs. So government has not made the affordable housing possible for the metropolitan cities. Maybe it is not possible for Mumbai, but it is quite possible for Delhi, Chennai, and those kinds of cities. Friends, I have tried to speak out my views in brief. I thought that some of the views required some more elaboration and some views required some less elaboration. Now I will wait for the chairman's signal, how he wants to further carry over the meetings or else. Thank you very much for giving me this patient hearing.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for your very informative session. So we have only time bound because there are more things to speak up. And I request Anand Gupta to give validity session statement. So we'll take up the question and answers. I request members who want to raise their questions can raise their hand in the chat box so that we can give them chance to speak up. Now I request Anand Gupta, our RERA committee chairman, to speak up. Madhu, kindly unmute Anand Gupta ji.
Gupta sir, unmute yourself.
Yes. I hope everybody can hear me.
Yes.
Can you
Yes,
signal
yes.
me? That, yeah.
We
Thank
can
you. Good evening, friends. First of all, thank you very much, Mr. Tarun Ghia, for giving a very nice insight of budget presented by Government of India day before yesterday. And as you know, we all wait for budget because that is a very good signal for how much contract we are going to get, how much relaxation and impact on our housing sector is going to happen. And truly, as soon as the budget, even when the budget was read out, the market has responded so good that at least index and the stock exchanges, if at all any good barometer, probably it shows that in general, industry and business people looks to be happy about it. The true picture probably will be known subsequently. I would like to just only touch few points. See, as far as first, let me tell you only the positive point, and then what has missed, and if those can be corrected even now, what good difference can it make to the country? First of all, I'm generally happy about the provisions made for the infrastructure sector. As you know, Builders of India is having a more than 70% people as the infrastructure developer and contractor. So it is definitely a good budget for, at least for them, I can definitely see. See, the provision of industrial corridor from Mumbai to Kanyakumari can definitely make a good difference for all economic activities to come on this route. Similarly, provision for these 6 cities additional metro, particularly in Maharashtra, if I say Nasik and Nagpur. If I say in Tamil Nadu, it is Chennai, which is the highest beneficiary by this metro, Cochin, Bangalore. So these metros are contributing around 85,000 crore rupees, and this is a good development for adding to infrastructure. To make it further infrastructure oriented, because that is the highest employment driven industry, Government of India now has opened to run a professionally managed development financial institution. They have contributed 20,000 rupees, and now they have planned that 5 lakh crore is going to be moved in this institution for better planning and administration of all these financial matter for infrastructure, which is, according to me, is a very, very good move and can make a lot of big difference in this country. Similarly, there are so many banks which are having a asset which are not functioning, yeah, which are not recoverable. So they are they have announced that they are going to make one asset restructuring company. So all these sick accounts will be transferred to them, and probably all bank accounts can work better, and their failure will be reduced, and this can definitely make a big difference to the industry. Similarly, Finance Minister has announced the better dispute resolution system for commercial activities. They have promised that they are going to strengthen the NCLT. They are going to make a e-courts and other better methodology to improve the infrastructure position in this country. Now I'm coming to housing sector. See, nothing much has been done for housing. As Mr. Tarun Ghai has already pointed out, I don't want to repeat that Harbour Line, that the limit has been increased from 10% to 20%. Probably it can make little relaxation to few of the people and few of the developers to sell their flat, maybe at little concession price, and increase the liquidity. But nothing, and as except giving this 1 year tax holiday for affordable housing, increasing 1.5 additional interest rate to first time buyer for another additional year, and tax holiday for affordable housing for extending only for another 1 year has been done. In my opinion, these are simply not sufficient, particularly when I say, see, few of the things, if government would have done, probably it would have made a miracle differences to the industry and to our economy. See, one of the suggestions which we wanted them to implement, looking at the success of government of Maharashtra, when government of Maharashtra reduced the stamp duty from 5% to 2% as a timeline arrangement, same thing we wanted, that they should order all the state government to do it and reimburse all the losses which they otherwise are going to get for reduction. And this would have boosted, as it has boosted in Maharashtra, it would have boosted the whole country's real estate. And as real estate is also connected with the 260 other industry, probably those industry also could have got a good life. Still nothing wrong. They can still correct it. If they accept the request of the Builders of India, they can still correct it. Second thing which we wanted them, see, from the day this demonetization, then the RERA, and then the GST has come. See, the whole real estate parameter got changed, and particularly the major difference was the GST. Whenever real estate whole base is sale and purchase under construction. During under construction, whatever sale purchase, that is called real estate. And after once the building is completed, if at all there is any sale or purchase, it is not. It is in a different category. Now the problem here is, when we say make a sale and purchase under construction, we have to pay GST. In a same area, in same locality, if building is already completed, then he has not to pay GST. So this big difference of GST is making putting a whole real estate in a back foot. If the Builder of India suggestion that you either put both the industry, whether it is a sale, it is a resale, whether it is under construction, at par, then probably industry can run better. Similarly, even our request that you may fix a wage, but input credit has to be given, because it is leading to encourage people to use unfair practices, and just on the face of it, it is looking less GST. Actually, the person is ending up paying more GST. It is of no use. And the third and the last suggestion which Builders of India had given was, see, there are in this country, cement and steel is a big component for infrastructure as well as for the real estate. And this both the people are, the manufacturing is in the hands of very few people. And they are using this as to use a cartelization. We had suggested that regulator should be announced, so that who will control all the aspects, taxation, procurement, distribution, and will not allow these people to make any misuse of their position, which as they are in few number. probably even today, if these three suggestions particularly to order all the state government to reduce the stamp duty for a time-bound program and reimburse them for time being, and GST make at par whether it is sale or resale, and the regulator for cement can make a lot of difference. And this is what I also would like to name at this juncture that real estate government has forgotten one thing. There is a prediction that today real estate is contributing around 7 to 7.5% in GDP, and infrastructure is contributing around 7 to 7.5%. Both together are contributing around 14%. But very soon, real estate alone, by maybe 2025, going to contribute 13% to the GDP. So when the industry is going to grow to such an extent, if some facility would have been given now, probably it would have gone a long way for the benefit of the country. But that still they can correct it, and if they do it, probably things will be better. This is what, in short, I want to say. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Anand Gupta. I now request Madhusudan to take up the questions, and I request members who have to raise their question can raise their hand in the chat box so that we can allow them to speak.
Mohinder Rijwani sir, can you call up Mr. Krishnani? He wanted to ask questions. He wanted, he has gone out. He wanted us to call him. I will call him. But in the meantime, Tarun Gia sir, are you there?
Yes, yes, please.
Yeah, in the Google form, we have received a couple of questions, out of which I have mentioning two. One is one minister from Mr. Uttam Gupta from New Delhi, the Antriksh Group. He is saying applicability of TDS or TCS for purchase and belated return amendments.
Applicability of TDS for?
Applicability of TDS oblique TCS for purchase and belated return amendments.
Okay.
That is his query.
So now the TDS has come on the purchaser of the goods also, provided that the turnover or sales of this purchaser is more than 10 crores in the preceding financial year, and provided he is purchasing goods, the aggregate value for the entire year should be more than 50 lakhs. If these two conditions are applying, then the purchaser, while making payment to the seller, will see to it that he deducts 0.1% TDS and deposits in the government treasury. As far as belated return is concerned, that return is belated which is filed beyond the prescribed time limit. So there are due dates of filing the returns of income. After due date, if you are filing the return, it is called belated return. But for the belated return also, there is a time limit. Presently, that time limit is end of the financial year in which you are filing the return. So you are always filing the return for the financial year which has ended. You are filing the return in the next financial year. So that next financial year ends by 31st March. So presently you are allowed to file belated return up to 31st March. But now in the proposed amendment, you would be able to file belated return not up to 31st March, but 3 months reduced. So 31st December only. So this is applicable from 1st April 2021 only. So when your March 21 ends, what is your due date of filing return? It may be 31st July 21, 30th September 21. If you don't file, then you will be filing belated return. In the earlier existing provision, you could have filed that belated return up to 31st March 2022. But now, if this proposal is passed, then you will be able to file the belated return up to 31st December only.
Okay. Thank you, sir. We have Mr. Sanjeev Shah from Baroda. Sanjeev ji.
Yeah. Good evening, Tarunji. It was very
Good evening.
informative for us to hear to you. I have one very simple question, whether in this budget, the limit of GST audit has been increased, and there is a myth which is going on around all the business people that shortly, like service tax, GST officers are going to visit your office and they are going to scrutinize your account, whether it is a small account or whether it is a big account. I want your opinion and advice on this, sir.
In our office, I am sorry, but I do not look into GST at all, but this is true. The second part, I am aware.
Yeah.
It is true that hitherto, your chartered accountant is verifying your GST compliance.
Yes, sir.
That means he is auditing
Yes, sir.
and filing the audit report along with your GST annual return.
Right, sir.
Now, that is being discontinued.
Okay.
That, like in the earlier service tax regime, as you rightly said,
Right.
the GST officer may come to the stakeholders' office and he will do audit there.
Okay. Okay. So it is always better to get the chartered means GST officers audit report rather than, if some small businessmen are not coming in that audit part, so they have to fill Form 9 and the GST consultant are going to fill Form 9C. So it is always better to get audit. That's what I feel. Your opinion, sir.
No, now audit is not necessary under the
Okay.
GST.
Okay.
Okay. There is,
Okay.
I am not aware about the form, but that audit
Yes,
report
sir.
form is being discontinued.
Yeah, that's
If at
what I
all,
feel. Yeah.
if at all department doubts your GST return,
Yes, sir.
then they will come and verify.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So
sir.
one way for the small dealers,
Yeah.
there is a saving in exercise and money that they don't
Right,
have
sir.
to pay GST audit fee.
Yeah. Right, sir.
Another way, if that officer comes to your premises, he
Yeah.
will not be as cooperative as your chartered accountant is.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
That's true. That's true.
So
Very true.
it will work both the ways.
Right, sir. Right, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Sir, should I talk now? Madhu?
Mr. We are Raju Krishnani from Bangalore, from Pune.
Pune, yeah.
Yeah.
Should I?
Yeah, please.
Yes. Sir, first of all, thank you for discussing on union budget and infrastructure. Sir, my say was this union budget was introduced and we were keenly waiting that rate of steel, which is rise suddenly by 50% will come down. And on the budget, they will talk something on the steel. But when this union budget and infrastructure, without steel, the infrastructure, how it will go up, sir? The rates have rise by 50%. How the market is going to sustain contractors? How they are going to sustain the market when the rates have gone 50% up?
Yeah, according to me, there are two aspects. It is correct that cement production is in the hands of few players. So cartelization is one issue.
Cartelization is taking place. That minister himself is declaring, we are listening just because probably cartelization is not crime. Minister is simply talking and no action is being taken on them. But similar thing is happening in the steel also. So should we consider this cartelization is not crime?
To my little understanding, the cement production is the requirement of construction, infra, and other such activities, and it is completely a domestic issue. It has no international aspects. The steel production is a complex issue because there are various kinds of steels. You know it better that in many cases the crude raw steel is being imported and then specialty steel is being exported and things like that. And steel prices have a lot of international relationships. So like in this budget, we are told, I am not a reader on these aspects, but from economy point of view, I do read necessary things, that the import duty on certain kinds of steel has been reduced. So that steel will be available at cheaper rate. And therefore it was understood that the domestic players like SAIL, Tata Steel, JSW, Jindal Steel would be compelled to reduce the steel prices.
No, the shocking is, as the budget is declared, in budget I was expecting that minister will at least talk that cartelization is going on and we are going to praise them and this and that nothing had happened. And this government company SAIL, yesterday they declared their increase in the rate of steel.
Yeah,
Yes.
so that is what the presently what appears is that only China factor is likely to reduce the steel prices. But otherwise, the demand for steel across the world is increasing so much. And as I understood from the reports, the growth in Indian economy is taking place at a faster rate. Where cement, for example, automobile industry, the steel is one of the main inputs. So now your point that appoint the regulator, I do not think government will ever appoint the regulator, because then these big players will be discouraged. Ultimately, I am not justifying, but ultimately, if the economy grows, then even with the help of increase the cement prices, and even with the help of increase the steel prices, the real estate players, the infra players.
No, but at a time rise in 40 and 50%, and minister is talking on it that cartelization is going on, and budget is simply displayed and declared that nothing has come down.
So I think I can join in your making representation if some service can be given by me. Nothing more than that I can speak.
नहीं, ये इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर जो डेवलपमेंट चाहिए इनको, ये इस ऐसे 40 और 50% राइज हो गया तो ये बिल्डर तो रेट अपने कहीं भी लेके जाएंगे ना, और कॉन्ट्रैक्टर्स काम ही नहीं कर पाएंगे जो गवर्नमेंट से कमिटमेंट के ऊपर काम करते हैं, वो कैसे सस्टेन हो जाएंगे?
नहीं, वो तो कॉस्ट वेरिएशन अलाउ करते हैं ना, कॉस्ट प्लस एस्पेक्ट अलाउ करते हैं ना बाद में वो.
Krishnani sir, let me interfere. Actually, this matter, it should not be related to this today's lecture. We'll have a separate webinar on this particular cement and steel price hike. And no, actually what happened, today's lecture is totally related to union budget, and budget has no concern of any hike in the, whatever it may be. That cannot be a part of budget. Just, and we'll have a webinar on this.
Budget also we were expecting that steel rates are coming down. Our contractor should get the difference in case of rise of steel.
It is not possible because you see, you are. See, there are so many atoms.
The problem is that in this subject, speaker is a student and you are a better knowledgeable person. So,
Nagulkar sir.
Yes.
Once we are discussing budget and infrastructure, this both the things are dependent on steel only, and there is no talk about steel.
We will discuss. We'll have a separate webinar on this.
Okay.
We'll have some separate webinar.
Okay. I'm happy. Yes.
We have Mr. C.A. Dilip Agarwal ji.
Yes. Thank you, sir, for the opportunity. My one question related to some changes in the dates for Tarunji. Tarunji, since the budget says that dates are reduced from 31st March to December, if you see for the last date for filing, thereafter no one can even file with the penalty also. And the assessment date is also come down till 31st December. is it an indication for the future budgets that Indian economic, financial year is the accounting year right now, and calendar year is the financial year worldwide? Are we going to match with that? What is your opinion
That
on
is
this?
the proposal which had come from Government of India before 2 to 3 years. And as my committee, we had also given inputs because government was collecting inputs from all the stakeholders and the regulators like us. So on merits, we fully agreed with the calendar year as the correct accounting year. But ultimately, we said that this may be done over a period of time rather than suddenly. Because at that time, so many changes were coming and disruption was quite higher, and everything was experimented by the government at the consequences to citizens. So we said that this is a very Herculean task to overnight change, but it should go slowly. So probably you see this budget presentation also is preponed thereafter from 28th February to 1st February.
Yes.
So in future it may become 1st January also. You are very right. In fact, your question includes your answer also.
Yeah.
That this is an agenda, open agenda by the government, and they are trying to prepone the things accordingly.
And that is good also to some extent, because many companies having multinational presence and they have to make two set of books,
True, very
set of balance sheets to meet the financial need as well as the statutory requirements. And that is of no use except to spend more money and more manpower on the same maybe data or something. Good initiative, I think, indirectly. Thank you, sir.
Chairman, sir, no more questions.
Thank you.
Okay. So my question is, I have to ask a question regarding you saying that the assessment for 6 years is now down to 3 years.
I'm sorry, 1 minute.
Yeah.
Please repeat the question.
So my question is that you are saying that the assessment officer can access our document accounts
Sorry,
for 6 years. Now it is turned to 3
your
years.
voice is breaking.
Sorry. Hello, my voice is
yeah.
clear.
Yes.
Yeah.
So my question is that you are saying that
Keep the mic near your mouth. Keep the mic near your
my
mouth.
mic is very close. My question is that you are saying that the 6-year assessment now is turned to 3 years. The assessment officer can only check our books or accounts for next 3 years, not 6 years. So should we maintain the books for 6 years or 3 years?
See, you will have to maintain books for 10 years. Because according to you, your books are correct, return is correct. But as an assessing officer, I will produce an evidence that your income has escaped by more, escapement is more than 50 lakhs. So time limit has not only reduced, it has reduced in general, but in specific cases, it has increased.
Okay, sir.
And I am talking, and we are talking only about income tax law. You will appreciate that the other laws also are relevant. So do not be conservative in the digitized. You can keep your record digitized and save the storage cost.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. I think someone wants to ask a question, Mr.
Dilip Megji Gogari.
Yeah, please allow him to speak, Madhu.
हेलो तरुण सर, अपना ये बीच में पहले ऐसे बात होता था कि इनकम टैक्स कम्प्लीटली एबोलिश हो जाएगा करके, क्योंकि इसका डायरेक्ट टैक्स में कलेक्शन से ज्यादा उसका खर्चा ज्यादा है, तो ये क्या नियर फ्यूचर में हो सकता है क्या?
World over, it is rarely being followed except some, free port countries. So I do not think that abolition of income tax is so much possible. Secondly, income tax is a big relief. You see, if income tax is abolished, then other taxes will increase like GST, etc. Now GST becomes payable even when you do not have any profit. At least income tax is a tax where at the end of the year it is computed whether you have earned income or not. If you have incurred loss, then that also is carried forward to next year. So there are pluses and minuses, but I am aware that there were so many videos circulating and people claiming to have met Mr. Modi and all these things. But I do not think there is any kind of proposal with the government to my limited knowledge.
Okay, thank you. Chairman, sir.
Thank you, Tarun Gaya, for your very informative session. I think so most of the people are happy that they have got the answers for the budget 2021. I have a near future, the budget will take BI's suggestions very carefully, and we'll see that we'll try to get the cement and steel prices also down. We'll take your suggestion for that also. And your session was a little bit conservative because we are time bound. So I'm sorry for that. But maybe next time, if we have a physical meeting, we'll definitely give you more time, sir. Now, I request Sri Jayaprakash Bhatia to give vote of thanks.
Unmute yourself.
Jayaprakash ji, unmute yourself.
I thanks to Sri Tarun Gaya ji for enlightening the test subjects of budget. He has been very well explained all the points related to our construction industry and more particularly for all business persons. I thank Sri Pradeep Nagekar ji for introducing Sri Tarun Gaya ji. Mr. Anand Gupta ji also validated the session, has taken out certain inputs, very well taken on the budget. I thank particularly back of his team also and Shri Madhusudan ji Sanjaya for all the necessary arrangements to the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
I thank all the participants also for attending the meeting, and I request the participants to always support us, give your feedbacks to our emails so that we can share it. And if anyone have any questions regarding the union budget or any income tax issues, kindly forward it to us so that we can forward it to Tarun Gaya ji and he'll be able to answer your queries. And I request Madhu.
Everybody is unmuted.
Okay.
Thoughts.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Mahendra ji. You are doing a great job, sir. We are all enlightened by your nice lecture series, sir. We are
1
very
minute.
grateful to you, sir.
गया सर, अभी जो एक पेपर में न्यूज आ रहा है कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट का ऐसा कुछ ऑर्डर आ गया है कि जीएसटी यानी सप्लायर ने जीएसटी नहीं भरा तो दैट इज नॉट लायबिलिटी, अदरवाइज दे वर रिकवरिंग फ्रॉम द परचेसर. अभी वो लायबिलिटी नहीं है, ऐसा इज इट अ फैक्ट?
I have heard about it, but I have not gone through the fine print, but that appears to be a logical view.
Actually, it is logical.
In fact, if you remember, in the Bombay Sales Tax Act also, there was a judgment of Suresh J. Trading that government has given him sales tax registration number. I relied upon him. I made purchases from him. Now government says that registration certificate given by government is bogus. So government does not suffer. That supplier may suffer, but I am as a purchaser suffering. So if I can prove that I have paid tax to him, then I cannot be subjected to any consequences. That was a Bombay High Court judgment also earlier.
But will it be applicable for
applicable to royalty and other
Now
taxation?
see, in case of depreciation on goodwill also, the judgment came in favor of the SSC, but government has now changed the entire judgment by bringing the change in law. So ultimately, government wants that we will not verify the credentials of the supplier. you verify the credentials of the supplier. This is the expectation of the government.
But now what happened if Supreme Court really?
Supreme Court has given many judgments and government has changed the laws thereafter.
My goodness.
That is the problem. So I fully agree with you that this is the correct judgment and verdict of the Supreme Court is the law of the land. But in our country, after the verdict of the Supreme Court comes, the government comes out with amendment in the law, and then the Supreme Court has to deal with the issue that Supreme Court's work is interpretation of the law and enactment of the law is that of the government. So Supreme Court should not interfere as far as enactment of the law is concerned.
Hello. Yeah, good evening, sir.
So this is a very continuing issue, and I think presently we have to live with this. But,
Tarunji, but presently you say that the Supreme Court Act till it is changed by the Parliament, it will enforce. It will be enforced on all the officers, on all the GST department, everywhere.
Once the judgment of the Supreme Court comes, it is enforceable from the date of the law. So Supreme Court judgment does not bring a law today. It is the law which will apply retrospectively that all the cases in which government has punished the purchasers will have to be reopened then. They will have to be given relief. So I am fully agreeing that Supreme Court judgment is applicable to the entire country and it is binding upon department, etc. That part is not in our debate. The only point is to what extent government will allow their judgment to operate on grounds. Because there are ample number of cases where government has, after the Supreme Court judgment came, government has changed the law itself.
But the balance of justice demands that this is a right judgment.
Sir, balance of justice demands many things, but in democracy, ultimately, the citizen has to beg for the justice and government is, behaving like a dictator. These are the hard realities in developing countries particularly.
See, on a similar line, there is another problem which is going on. See, our all contractor builder, they collect the material, this sand, metal, and they say we have paid all taxation. That to the supplier, we say it is inclusive of all royalty, all GST, everything. And later part, even these royalty people are also troubling us. That you give us a proof that now the question is we are never the dredging owner or we are not the truck owner. We are the owner ordering sitting in our office. So even that will also be covered by the Supreme Court.
Yeah, means as I said, we have to read the judgment, but the judgment in principle is very, very welcome and correct only. That as a citizen, as a player in the market, if I can't trust the person with a registration by the government of India or government of Maharashtra, I rely upon his certificate. Government also agrees that certificate was given to him.
नहीं तो प्रदीप जी ये दोनों सुप्रीम कोर्ट का जो आपने बताया ना ये अपने को रॉयल्टी में भी फायदे में रहेगा और जीएसटी में भी we can use it.
Yeah, principle can apply all across. I think on this topic we can have some other meeting.
Yeah. Gupta sir.
Yes, sir. Definitely we'll have a royalty and GST.
Sir, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sanjeev ji, everyone.
Thank you, Sanjeev ji, for
joining us.
I am leaving the meeting with your permission. Huh?
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
The day after tomorrow we'll meet. Yes, sir.
Tomorrow or Friday you invited me, no?
Friday after tomorrow.
Day after tomorrow, yeah.
You must have reviewed it.
6:30, yeah. Sure.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. Good night. See you. Take care, everyone.